We have reached the end. This is Kingdom Come, Chapter 4, The Never-Ending Battle. Mark Waid writing, Alex Ross doing the artwork. Last issue. At the end, Superman races to the Gulag, knowing what Lex Luthor's plan is. However, through this whole thing, he did not count on Shazam, Captain Marvel kind of being the wild card in all of this. So, before we dive into this, spoilers will abound. If you've never read Kingdom Come, I highly urge you to do so. Pause this video, go to your local comic shop and get the singles or collected trade version, or support your local library and grab this, is how I am currently sharing this with y'all, and come back. And you're back. The Gulag has been destroyed. And now it's our superheroes versus the villains that did not want to conform to Kal-El's rule. There were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. This was my dream. And then you open the page, and I love how it goes from McKay's vision to the actual battle. And this is what you call a piece of art. This isn't just like a quick commissioned comic book page. This is something that you stop, take in, and appreciate. Seeing Superman go against Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, all the other heroes doing what they can to try to stop this. And I like how it says, "This was my dream. No more." And so we see from vision to actual reality. And Alex Ross's work here, absolutely beautiful. It feels a little, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for, static, but nonetheless, gorgeous work all around. As we see everyone trying to stop all the villains escaping the Gulag to continue doing what they're doing. It's happening just as the visions foretold. Superman came too late. War's begun. Do something, for the love of God, make it stop. I cannot. I can take no action. Not yet. Why not? What in God's name is to happen? How much time must pass? There will be a reckoning, Norman McKay. Be prepared. Just as the scriptures say, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And so this is one thing that I really appreciate about Kingdom Come. Jack Kirby said it best, and I believe it was Jack Kirby that said that comic book characters are our modern mythos. And he talked about in interviews, like when he was creating like Galactus, for example, he would look like to the Bible. And so all these characters from mythology, religion, this is, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, these are like our modern day Gilgameshes, our Medusas, our Beowulfs, etc., so forth. And to see all of our heroes kind of coming to this epic, biblical level crescendo of this drama, it's beautiful. To me, it accumulates everything of what we've read for years and years. And to see all of our heroes trying to bring back a world from the brink. It reads like you would see something in a Shakespearean novel. The UN, knowing that they really do not have control anymore, make a decision. The only way to ensure that future generations remember this is humanity's final option is to ensure that there will be further generations after today. Let us strike while we still can. Godspeed. And so he's utilizing the Blackhawks to drop nukes on this location. So after, oh my goodness, Morgog was trying to bring back Kansas from his mistake, the U.S. government here is planning on nuking the same site because that is where the Gulag was built. But what I like is how even though he stands strong in his convictions, walks into his office, watches the planes take off, and realizes that he just signed a death warrant for many people, and it's kind of goes back into heavy is he who wears the crown in a sense, because he's just realized what he's done, but he's left no options trying to work with the Justice League, etc., so forth. Even in the brightest day, the dust of battle eclipses the sun itself. The prisoners released by Marvel's thunderbolts strike out blindly. Wonder Woman's troops return, force and kind. Both sides fight with abandon. Whatever heroic mores of combat might once have ruled, then became nostalgic memories. This isn't a fight that will eventually die down. This is a forest fire that has just begun, a war that may well end the world. Any instance now, there will be fatalities, and no way to turn back. With Superman deadlocked, their only player of deliverance rests with a force from on high. And I love this because at first when we see Superman shake hands with Lex, you're thinking, what is he doing? Why is he going with this Human Liberation Front or whatever it was called? And it was Batman taking his team undercover to find out Luthor's work with Billy Batson. And that's how, utilizing a very broken John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, finds out that this threat that's been walking amongst them is not Shazam, but rather a grown-up, very brainwashed, broken Billy Batson. And once Batman gets all the data, as he does, he double-crosses Lex. But unfortunately, Billy is too quick, too fast, turns into Shazam before Batman can subdue him, and that's how this broke out. But nonetheless, all through Kingdom Come, Batman has just been working in the shadows, wearing suits, just kind of being a businessman. However, here, from on high, we finally see Batman don his uniform once again. And we actually see Bruce smile. Batman's Legion soars in like a silent cavalry. Man or machine, each agent knows his mission. Stem the loss of life. Prevent the riot while there's still time to exert control. The sheer force of Batman's presence kindles a desperate ember of hope. Too late. And so the casualties begin. Batman teams up here with Diana. Diana, he left me no choice. They began this. I will finish it. Because Diana finally decides that Superman's peacekeeping is not working, so she is going full warrior. Even though she has been renounced as a princess of Themyscira, all of her royal titles have been stripped. And we will finish it without you, Bruce. You people are out of their league. Why? Because we're here to save lives rather than take them? We're here to force peace. We're left no choice. If you stand in the way, I will remove you. Force peace. The Amazon tenet. Spread love and understanding, but don't be afraid to bloody your knuckles doing it. Don't tell me you still subscribe to that paradox. I've heard rumors that the Amazons relieved you of your duties and heritage for not being strident enough. Face the truth, Diana. You won't win back your royal station by overcompensating. You aristocratic bastard, how dare you condemn me? And that's why I think I've always, out of all the heroes that I do love, I think, and it may sound cliche, I don't care, that Batman is my number one character because even though he does have his flaws like every character should, he has a way of striking at the heart of it. That Diana teaming up with Clark. She is, without saying anything, having her PTSD being removed from her royal station and is overcompensating, just like Bruce said. And it becomes a battle between them. I will not be judged by you. Do you hear me? Do you understand? After all these years, you've had the nerve to swagger out of your cave and expect everyone to bow before your precious wisdom. Well, it's too late for that, Bruce. We tried to hold order, but it's too far gone. Our only option now is war. Our only answer is... And I like how Bruce just kind of turns his head ever so slightly. We see the Blackhawks coming in. And they realize that their pettiness has caused more damage than good. Marvel, in the name of heaven, wipe that empty smile off your face. You were a friend once. How can you do this? How? Look at the horror you've let loose. Damn it, say something for yourself. Shazam! Shazam! And so at this point, everything just feels like a beat. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. We start to see the stakes increase. We see Dick's daughter holding her father in his hands. Don't know if he's alive or not. We see everyone working in vain. We even see Alan Scott being taken down by Oliver Queen. We don't know what's going to happen. Open your eyes, Diana. Your answer flies on metal wings. Those are nuclear carriers, the ultimate war bringers. If your soul genuinely longs for atonement on Amazonian terms, then let's keep fighting and let their planes do their work. Despite my spectral form, I feel the heat of Batman's lasers. I feel the strain of titanium muscles. I hear the whisper of the pilot begging forgiveness. No. And it's here that Superman realizes that judgment has come. Norman McKay, the hour tolls. Our entire journey has brought us to this moment. But the bomb! Will it determine the fate of the world? If it drops, the Supermans will surely die, but humanity will be spared their violence. We see a Superman trying to take it out. It reflects his laser eyes. If not, they will live on to fight a battle that will in time swallow the earth. In either case, we face the evil of genocide, and my task is to punish those responsible for evil. But who shall be held accountable? Whose sin is this? The humans or the superhumans? Tell me, Norman. Judge me. Yours is the soul that guides me. There's no evil here. There's tragedy and bedlam. Judge carefully. And then Superman, again, just like when we saw when he talked to Bruce and he said, help me. I don't know what to do. You can see that, don't you? Every choice I've made so far has brought us here, has been wrong. And he's holding Billy's mouth shut. Superman's palm spasms around Batson's jaw. And Batson whimpers. The clock is racing. Only moments remain before the blast. So listen to me, Billy. Listen harder than you have before. Look around us. Look what we've come to. There's a bomb falling. Either it kills us, or we run rampant across the globe. I can still stop the bomb, Bill. That much I'm sure of. What I don't know is whether I should be allowed to. Superhumans or mankind, one will pay the ultimate price. Is it not for me to make? I'm not a god. In that decision, I'm not a man. So I like how this is kind of becoming a triangle. Norman saying, I'm not a god. I can't judge. Superman saying, I'm not a man because he's Kryptonian. But then he looks point blank at Billy and says, but Billy, you're both. Because he is human, but he is in a sense a god. When he says Shazam, he takes on the powers of all the mythological gods. More than anyone who have ever existed, you know what it's like to be in both worlds. Only you can weigh their worth equally. Fight the brainwashing bill. Decide. Decide the world. Of course, again, Superman at this point still shrugging off his humanity. You can still see it seeping in because that is who the Man of Steel is. Billy, inspired. Shazam. Now, I don't want to give away the next part, guys, because even though it's tragic, there's things that come at a cost. And we think that Kal-El is starting to find his humanity. He just about teeters over the edge that Batman so carefully walks every time he puts on the suit. However, Norman says, let me talk to him, Spectre. Who are you? Why are you here? To bear witness. Listen to me, Clark. Of all these things you can do, all your powers, the greatest has always been your instinctive knowledge of right and wrong. It was a gift of your own humanity. You never had to question your choices. In any situation, any crisis, you knew what to do. But the minute you made the super more important than the man, the day that you decided to turn your back on mankind, that completely cost you your instinct. That took away your judgment. Take it back. If you want redemption, Clark, it lies in the very next decision you make. Make it as a man and make it right. And that's why, even though we love Green Lantern, we love Batman, we love Wonder Woman, without Clark, he's sort of like the lightning rod that kind of holds that, as I said, the truth, justice, and the American way. Even Shazam, as we just saw, who walks the world of man and God, looks to Clark's words and they resonate. And it causes what's been happening in these beats. And Superman says we will work together in the hope that your world and our world can be one world once again. We see some of the heroes taking off their masks. Alan Scott with his daughter, Jade. Clark, once again, making these decisions as a man and not a Kryptonian. We see that Wayne Manor has become a hospital, and I very much love this very 40s to 50s kind of ward. Time folds forward. Healing has begun. And in the twinkling of an eye, great powers reconstruct a once stately manor into a hospital ward patrolled by a man who has traded black garb for white. Under his watch, survivors ravaged by the effects of the bomb are nurtured and cared for, while those who help bring about the cataclysm suffer their own unique justice. So these human liberation fronts, I can't remember what he calls himself, but they're wearing these control collars. And I just love how Bruce gets more spicy in his old age. He walks by Luthor and goes, Shazam, shut up. Now, I want to point this out because, as I said, when you're just reading the comic, there are so many characters packed in here that there's not enough time to flesh them out. We'll go into it at the end of this, but this is a very important panel. I want you to pay attention to this as we continue. And what really hit me hard is we saw Dick dying in the wasteland of Kansas, his daughter crying over him. Bones are set, burns are salved, and wounds are mended. I just love seeing Bruce and Dick shake hands. And across the sea, through her courage, the princess is at last granted her crown. No longer does she see herself as a failed student. She is a teacher whose work is just beginning. So the ones who actually survived the gulag and saw everything, they want to change. But rather than go to the extreme of what they were thinking of putting these individuals either on Apocalypse or in the gulag, they are now on Themyscira. And what I love the most is the first two issues, we think that Magog was this crazy serial killer. Yes, he was a little more extremist and took things really far, but at the heart, he wanted to be like Superman. And as they're sitting here listening to Diana, this guy who's always been he was the one that sort of started the uneasiness in the gulag. He starts to kind of start his BS again, and Magog just smacks him with the head like, shut up and listen and respect. It shows, without seeing so much of Magog, that he's truly repented and wants to be a better individual with these established classic mythological characters being their teachers. And across the world, new roles are embraced, new alliances forged, and I love how it says New Oa. After far too long a time, the gods have chosen to work with mankind towards a common good. So as we said, in the first issue of Kingdom Come, how a lot of the heroes after Superman left departed, went to different worlds, different realities. Some sought seclusion. Superman, Alan Scott, built his own fortress of solitude, essentially. And here, we now see him amongst the UN, working in tandem, rather than just guarding the Earth in this quiet, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word, guys, but you get what I'm getting at. And he finally gets to meet the man who is the avatar of the Spectre, Norman McKay. And it ends on a very heartwarming note. I don't want to give everything away, but then there's 1 year later. Oh, wait, there's one thing I did want to point out. Where is it? Okay, here, yes. So, two things. We start to see how Diana and Clark, or Kal-El at the time, were starting to bond over this situation. But now that things have had a moment to breathe, The book sort of starts like the beginning. We see Clark out in the fields of Kansas. Only one works alone. Quite a memorial, as it should be. Not just for those claimed by the bomb, but for all those whose lives were lost to our mistakes. Let them rest in peace, Cal. They'll only haunt you if you forget what they taught you. Speaking of which, what's this? A gift. A little something to help you see more clearly. And without any more dialogue, it's his Clark Kent glasses, and he puts them on, and we see that Boy Scout smile. And then we finally see two people who, through loss, find each other. Take care, Clark. Take care, Diana. And then just like Superman having his Fortress of Solitude, having his own ranch, Magog trying to follow an example, rebuilding Kansas, but being too hot-tempered, we then see the man who everyone looks to as a sense of inspiration, as an idol, doing what he does, as selfless as it is. And I just love the little nod of Crypto running alongside him, pulling this giant piece, I think it's supposed to be a piece of the gulag, as a tiller. Just a great little way. And then it's a year later, they go into this restaurant that is like an homage, sort of like a, I don't know, like a TGA Fridays, but it's all based on superheroes. And they asked Bruce to join them. And it's interesting seeing the three heroes that we've looked to for growing up just sitting down to a meal and talking. So I gather from your communicate that we have business. We have some things to settle, news to shape. You and I haven't really spoken much since, but before we begin, I think it's appropriate to give a moment to those who fell in battle. We're long overdue. And so I love how it says, to past friends, and we just see noticeable characters on the cups. It's kind of hokey, but at the same time, it's a very beautiful, poignant moment. Clark and Diana go to announce that they're pregnant. Bruce beats them to him. And she's like, how did you... Observations for an angeless Amazon of perfect physique. You've put on a pound or two. That was my first clue. There were others. My best to both of you. Sorry I stepped on your denouement, princess. Always the detective. Now, let's test your escaped artistry. I want a commitment from you. I'd like you to be the child's godfather. What? I don't know what to say. Then the day is full of surprises. News to you, I take it? What isn't when it comes to her? And she said, Bruce, I'll be the first to admit I know little about fatherhood, but I do know this. There are things the Batman can teach our child that Clark and I can't, that we would never even think of. More coffee, sir? Oh, yes. But we're of such different schools. You and Clark, you rule by trust. I rely on fear. Then let's talk about what we're all afraid of most. Look at the lesson we just learned. Right now, the gales of world power are balanced but still too easy to tip. Our child, more than any other, will need the leading influence of a mortal man. A moral man who we can count on. You're right about me. Trust is the center of my world. I don't know if that makes me an expert on it, but I know I trust you. Despite our differences, over the years, I always have. And we actually see the world's finest hug and embrace. There's more. I don't want to give it away, guys, but it hits on all the right levels. And I love what I enjoy, and this is what I think a lot of modern comic books are missing. If you want to do something like this that's world shaking, Armageddon level stuff, and you want to break the characters, okay. But there has to be a point, no matter how long your story may take, there has to be a point that they're put back together with lessons learned, as every tale should do. The traditional the hero's journey arc. And that's what I see here is these characters were broken for years once Superman stepped away. I mean, it kind of has that all is lost moment. But they learn some things about each other. And they learn, unfortunately, through loss, to re-embrace one another with new light. That's a great moral lesson to take away from Kingdom Come. Now, before we close this out, what I'm showing you guys, all these notes on the back of the book, these were, I cannot remember what issue it is, but it did this, and it gave you every single character so you can get an idea of who's who on every issue. But what I want to get at here is talking about how they came up with the book. Cool, like that. But I love Ross's notes because it talks about why he did what he did with Superman, Hawkman, Alan. But the one that's important, let me see if I can find it without flipping through every single thing. I was just kind of haphazardly flipping through this, and I found what I wanted to show you guys. Let me see if I can find it. If I take a moment, I apologize. But in the meantime, enjoy the beautiful art. I love Ted Korg's Blue Beetle 2 outfit. And I was disappointed. This was part of Batman's team. But it says here, Zatara 2, the son of the late Zatanna and grandson of the original Zatara, is a youthful Henry Houdini-like successor to the magician superhero lineage. And it's unfortunate that Ross didn't say who the father was. Yes, this was still like mid-90s, but it would have been nice to see if this was like Zatanna and Constantine, because that just, to me, would make the most logical sense. And then, of course, Jade, Dr. Fate. Oh, where is it? Come on. I think it's okay, we got the Titans, which we talked about. There's, oh God, what's Aqua Boy's name? I can't remember his name. Hold on. Yeah, I can't remember Aqualad's name off the top of my head. It's just completely lost on me at the moment. But you get the idea. Aquaman, Donna, Bucky, and Bucky. That's not Bucky, that's Speedy. Nightstar. That's Coriander and Dick's daughter. Flash the Fourth, Tola. The Wild Cards, which became Marvel, Captain Atom, Arthur, and Dolphin. I'm assuming that's Mira. I'm not 100% sure. But here, remember when I said when Batman put his hand on that guy's shoulder in the new Wayne Manor ward, essentially? I cannot pronounce his name to save my life, but here, Ibn al-Zufashash, the only youthful member of this organization, stands out like a younger version of his father, Bruce Wayne, in his prime, as a conduit for Batman-Luthor alliance. He may have manipulated the parent-child bond, which there was no opportunity to leave before. So this was Bruce Wayne's biological son. And I think there's more on him here. Let me see if I can find it. Of course, when I want to talk to you guys about it, it's like you can never find it to save your life. But what I'm trying to get at here is around this time period, remember when Batman finally went up against Ra's al Ghul, that's who Ivan's grandfather is, by the way. Him and Talia made love. There was a comic that came out. It was called like Batman, Son of the Demon, or something to that degree. And Ross in this book, yeah, I can't find it. Ross said in this book, based on that Son of the Demon, because it shows Talia having a baby. This is 1995, keep that in mind. So Ross took from that book, and the baby that was born is Ivan. However, retconned into main continuity Earth Prime. Later down the road in the mid-2000s, when Grant Morrison did Batman R.I.P., that child from Son of the Demon or whatever it was, that is who becomes Damian Wayne. So it's just an interesting way of how two different stories gives us two different iterations. And I wish that this character would have been fleshed out more and how Lex Luthor manipulated him, probably through the workings and machinations of Ra's al Ghul, because he was raised in the League of Assassins. So that was the last thing that I wanted to point out, guys. But yes, Kingdom Come is one of these books that will continue for years and years long when I'm in the ground to be reprinted, because that's how much of an impact it had on the mythology of our characters. And why, even shows like the CW have brought this world's version of both Superman and Batman into it. Kevin Conroy finally donning a Bruce Wayne-like exosuit skeleton, which was really neat to see. But that's how important Kingdom Come is. So guys, if you've enjoyed, what you've seen and you've never read Kingdom Come or want to get reacquainted with it, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever's going to get your action figures and comics and grab this series either in the single floppies or the collected trade, or as I did, go to your local library and check it out there and see if it's not there, see if any other branches have it and they can put it on hold for you. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little super bell next to subscribe, that way as I can upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.